Hello, good evening, good day, wherever you are around the world. This is the new episode of #Nailed It with me, Mike Lee, and
me, totally.
Seamless intro.
I'm so impressed.
What professionals we are.
I know, I actually thought you didn't know the name of the podcast.
I did struggle for a split second,
I
admittedly.
did look, and I also like how you said good evening. The podcast is released every morning on a Wednesday.
I said good evening. I said, didn't I say wherever you are around the day?
Yeah.
I think I think I covered all time bases.
It was good. It was good.
How are you?
I'm really good. How are you?
Good. Nice to see you. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Nice to see you. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really loving this open window vibe that's
Yes,
going
you
on.
notice on the YouTube version.
That is London.
Well,
Ish.
probably.
You know what? Actually, the way I'm going to crop this, nobody can see what I'm talking about. Don't worry
that's
about
the
it.
famous Pentonville Road.
Yes. So this week has been
Isn't
a
it
bit.
beautiful? Yeah.
You've been away, haven't
I've
you?
been in Budapest.
Yeah. You didn't send me any funny videos this time. I think you were avoiding it, so I couldn't share anything.
Sorry, I wasn't being inspired for funny videos.
I know.
After going
But you
through.
liked it? You liked Budapest?
It was amazing. Yeah, really, really nice. I highly recommend Budapest as a city break for all those of you in Europe. No, it was lovely. Very, very nice.
You mainly had food, right?
Oh, some wonderful meals. Very, very good Hungarian fare.
10 courses.
I had a 10-course tasting menu, which was very good. I had goulash soup, paprika chicken, which was excellent, strudel, Hungarian wines.
Do you say strudel or strudel? I say strudel.
Do you?
Yeah.
I say strudel.
Oh, okay.
Hungarian wines. Yeah, really, really nice.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a few moments I could have forgotten about, like going through a flea market and being surrounded by Nazi regalia on the side. Oh, yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. Well, Hungary was sort of obviously was invaded by the Germans, and then there was a lot of Soviet stuff. There was a lot of bust of Hitler and Stalin there, let me tell you.
I'm impressed you didn't buy anything, though, because that's the type of thing you'd buy as a joke.
No,
Funny.
there's levels. I wouldn't let people profit for sort of
Fair enough.
SS armbands and hats.
Fair enough.
No,
enough. Okay.
no.
Listen, we're recording 2 shows tonight.
We are?
So we we are.
Okay,
So,
so you're basically shutting me up and saying,
no,
get
just
on with
because
it.
I feel like we need to get on with it. We always, like last week's show, let's face it, was just a bit about nothing because we never got to the actual topic.
I thought it was our best show ever.
Okay, that's not
It was
what
freeform jazz.
it was. Did we talk about jazz?
No, but it was like freeform jazz.
Okay, yeah.
Went everywhere, didn't
I
it?
hate jazz though. That's
okay.
awful. You see, you've just compared it to one of the things I hate more
Really?
than yeah.
I think that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
About things that you hate. It's going to be a long show.
Very long show. Jazz would be in
Things you
top,
hate, things I
top
love.
5. It's so true. It's so true. We were on our way here, and Mike put his music on, and I literally can bear it for about 3 seconds.
The first song that came on my
Sorry, now I'm
iPod
gonna-
shuffle
oh, no.
was
Was
Elvis Presley, Hunk of Love.
God.
And you're like, oh, I can't listen to this sort of music. It's Elvis, this sort of music.
Was it really?
Yeah,
Elvis?
and then you poop. Yeah.
Wait, was it really?
Yes, it was Elvis. And
Oh
then you
my
poo-pooed. What else came on afterwards?
didn't poo-poo
No, there was
anything.
another one that you pulled a face. I can't remember what it was now. But,
But
anyway.
really, it wasn't one of Elvis's best, though. Right?
Still Elvis.
Yeah. Sorry to all the Elvis
king.
fans. I'm so sorry. I feel really bad now.
Yeah.
It's very warm in here, right?
is. It's,
I'm sweating.
balmy day in
Sweaty
London.
all over. Okay, so we've got a serious show tonight.
Yeah, everyone's switching off.
It's
Figures are just plummeted.
yes. All 3 listeners have now stopped listening. No, but we have a serious topic. Really. Let's see how you can make this topic funny.
I don't think I can make this. Well, we'll try.
Tonight we will be talking about abortions. Is there anything funny about abortions? Do you think? No.
Can't think of anything off the top of my head. Come back to me.
I'll come back to you. Yes. But do you know why we're talking about it?
I do know why we're talking about
You
it.
know that I'm going to be asking you loads of questions. So you have done no research
I've done
for this
none,
show.
and
no research. No. You basically looked at me today and said, I'm going to have nothing to contribute, which is why I'm going to keep coming back to you and put you on the spot.
I like to think that in this podcast, I am the listener.
No, you're
I'm the
not.
listener at home who knows nothing about certain subjects. I like to be their voice.
Their voice. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, their voice.
There we
Well,
are.
do you know what's happened like in the last couple of weeks? Because abortion's been on the news.
Well,
Come
even
on,
apart
don't be
from
even
you and your
probably
posts.
know because you read the Guardian every day.
I
So surely you've
don't.
read. Yes, you do.
Oh, I suppose I do most
So
days.
surely you know something.
I do know about the men in Georgia, in the US, who have passed. Is it actually become law, or it's going up to try and be
Well,
passed?
it hasn't been brought into effect yet,
Right.
but it has been passed. So
It has been passed. So this will at some stage become law in the state of Georgia.
Well, it started in Georgia, but there was another state, I think, and then after a few days, there was also another bill that was passed in Alabama.
Okay.
Which, sorry.
What's the one about Alabama?
I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm laughing because of Leon. He's like,
Sitting there doing a normal face.
you're getting it wrong. It's Alabama.
Right.
No, so it started with Georgia, and there was another state, which I can't remember now which one, that passed a bill that basically puts a ban on abortions from 6 weeks, right?
Right.
And then Alabama came out with a similar bill, only they made it a bit more restrictive, so you can't even get an abortion if you get pregnant because you were raped, for example, or as a result of incest. Incest?
Incest.
Yeah, incest. So that's what's happened. But I actually think there was more stuff that happened this week, by the way, in Australia. But this I'm not sure. Maybe Leon can research it as I speak. But no, really, I think there was something also that passed in Australia. And as a lot of my followers pointed out, because I've been talking about this, till my face has gone blue. There was a 48 hours that's all I was talking about, literally.
Well,
you were
it's
away.
upset you greatly.
Yeah,
Thank God I was away.
Exactly. Thank God you're away.
I was away outside protesting outside an abortion clinic.
No, you were
No, I
not.
wasn't.
No. And then people pointed out, Northern Ireland and other places in the world that similar things, are happening. So
And what's the outcry around the world?
okay.
Because there must be an outcry.
Oh, wow. I like it. You turned it around.
Thank you.
You turned it around.
What's
I see
the
what you're
outcry?
doing. Okay, so there's a lot of arguments, a lot of debates going on. And the main debate is between, the pro-life and pro-choice camps, right? What that means, right?
Okay.
But I actually feel like I want to change the narrative because I really feel like people are arguing over the wrong thing, for one, I want to ask you as a guy, right? This is a genuine question. My argument is that we shouldn't even be talking about this. It's not a topic that basically needs to even be a topic for conversation or for anybody to sort of think that they need to decide about. And my argument is that if the tables were turned, let's say we lived, hypothetically speaking, in a world where men were the ones who got pregnant, so pretend that world, we're in that world, right? We wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Why is that?
Because I don't believe that any man would ever put up with anybody telling them what to do with their bodies. And I don't think men would have to have a massive outcry for that to just be a reality.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
Well, this is a very good point.
No, really.
But what are the arguments by the people who put it forward? They must have been, bombarded with media and protesters. How did they reach this decision?
But again,
what's their rationale?
Okay, so
for
again,
it?
that would be taking us back to the old debate, which personally I really think is.
But
the
I'm
wrong,
just, I'm genuinely interested.
Well, I think people who object to abortions do so for various reasons.
Yes.
Whether it's religious reasons, for example, or there's the whole debate as to when does life start? Does it start at conception? Does it start when you get a heartbeat? Does it start when the brain develops, when the fetus starts feeling pain? These are different stages in a pregnancy.
So they're saying 6.
Yeah. So 6 weeks
what
was
happened at 6
determined
weeks?
because at 6 weeks, 7 weeks is when you first can hear a heartbeat in the monitor. Remember when we went to get the early scans?
Right, okay.
7 weeks is when you hear a heartbeat.
Right,
And
okay.
that's the argument. However, if you read a bit into it, then you see that at 7 or 6 weeks, there is no actual heart.
There's no heart.
There's a beginning of, cells that are
Right.
going to eventually form a heart. And actually, a fetus of that size is the size of a pea, and doesn't have a brain yet and doesn't have any human-like features. But that shouldn't be the argument, is my point.
Your
because-
argument is it's a woman's choice and that should be the end of it.
No, my argument is that we wouldn't even be having this argument
Right.
if men were having babies. That's number one, right? And number two, my argument is nobody wants to kill babies. It's really that simple. I don't know anybody. Do you know somebody who would like to kill a baby?
No.
No, I don't think anybody wants to kill a baby. And I just think the whole idea of it is just so absurd, And I do think that it's a lot of manipulation and a lot of brainwashing that is that its goal is to put people against each other, because the way it's presented out to the world is like you've got two camps. You're either pro-life and you're pro-choice, which I think is bullshit, because I can actually be pro both, and I am.
Okay, so let's say I was a ultra religious, ultra believed in the sanctity of mankind and babies being protected in the womb and all that. Okay, let's put that to one side. The argument that if a woman is raped, let's say, because of most people I assume who are pro-life will go, well, that's different. That's I get that. So these people have even gone, no. So what if you got raped? You get raped. You've still got to have that baby. A baby that you'll probably not connect with when the baby's born, and when they're born, it's far, far worse.
I mean, listen,
do people look at the argument when the actual babies are born and grow up and what they're going to turn into?
No, I mean, yes, that's another argument that's been, been sort of brought up. The whole argument of like, okay, you're pro-life, but what about the life of the woman? So, for example, if it is as a result of rape, and actually you don't have to go to that extreme even, if it's a very young mom, or if it's somebody who can't financially afford a child, there's a million reasons that you could say, well, actually, where does the life of the woman come into play here, and why is her life less important than the life of the fetus?
So what?
Right? So those are again more arguments that are being discussed, right? But my question is this: I don't think those are the conversations we need to be having, and I'll tell you why. Because there is reasons and reasoning to both sides. As a person, and I have an opinion, right? I can understand the reasons of both sides. My question is this: abortions are not going to stop. Even if you ban them, and I think everybody knows that, because
like they used to be many years ago.
Exactly, because abortions have been around since forever. So at the end of the day, even with banning abortions, potentially might make them a bit more difficult, but at the end of the day, they won't really get rid of them.
People will go to states where you can have
people will go abroad or go to places that they can,
states.
or do illegal, unsafe abortions, etc., etc. She's not actually banning abortions. Okay?
Or people will have babies and they'll be abandoned.
So my question is this, and tell me what you think. If we know this, right? If we know this is what's going to happen. So my question is this: who do we think, right, is the right, most equipped person to make a decision about whether or not to have an abortion? Like, who do we think?
Well,
who do we think it is? The government?
No, the woman, obviously.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just trying to understand, like, when we as a society have become so untrusting of women being capable of making good informed decisions. Because one of the arguments that's been throwing around is like, oh, if we allow women to have abortions, they're just going to have abortions, left, right, and center, like, abortion parties, basically, And I don't know one woman on this planet, right, who, for example, who's had an abortion, and I've had thousands of women write into me in the past couple of weeks since I've started talking about it, with a lot of personal stories. I am telling you 100%, none of them were like, oh yeah, I just couldn't be asked, so I had an abortion. Like, that's just not a reality. Do you know what I mean? It's a very, very difficult decision to make. It's very devastating, and I don't understand, like, how people think that they are equipped more than a woman who actually knows what it is to be pregnant and what that feels like, are more equipped to make such a decision.
And it's not just a question of popping a pill and that thing disappears. It's quite a procedure.
Well, who do you think, though? What's your opinion on that? And I have a question to you, like, as a man, because you are here representing all men,
great.
Men,
That's good pressure.
in
What was
the world.
the question?
Like, the question is, I actually am interested to know, like, where are men in this debate? Because even today, when I told you let's talk about abortions, it's on the news, it's really something that I'm passionate about and I want to talk about it, you were like, okay, but I'm telling you now, like, I have nothing to say, it's not my thing. But why?
I didn't say nothing to say. I didn't say that. That's not true. I didn't say that. All I said to you was, I don't know that much about it. I haven't looked into it that much to think I'm going to bring anything that new or interesting to the table.
Yeah.
That's all. There's going to be people far more informed than me on both sides of the argument
Yeah.
than me. That was my argument. That's all. you know?
Okay, so I'm asking you now, right? I'm putting you on the spot. I'm asking you because I really want to know. Like, I want to know, like, where it's interesting to me that men are not taking. And there are men, by the way. So this is not about all men. Because actually, I saw some amazing tweets by men, amazing tweets, but not enough. You know what I mean? Men coming out and actually saying, okay, yes, it doesn't affect my body because nobody's going to come and tell me I can't have abortion, but actually I support women. You know, do you know what I mean? Like I haven't seen that at all. Like I haven't seen that enough. And I'm just wondering, is it a feeling that like, oh, you know, I don't want to get involved because it doesn't concern me? Where do you think that comes from? Or is it... Or is it like a agreement just in silence and thinking like...
I don't know. I think a lot
from?
of people, there's this kind of selfishness that if something, any kind of topic or whatever doesn't affect you directly, you support in spirit, but you're not going to be protesting in the streets.
Yeah.
And that's not just abortion. There's loads of things in the world, whether it's poverty, bad things in politics, when people should come together more and protest in the streets. I mean, obviously in this country, the last big protest was against Brexit, where people of all ages and walks of life came out because this was a subject they realised was directly going to affect them and their families in some way. So maybe I'm just thinking, maybe just the whole, abortion debate, especially with men, they just don't think it affects them directly, so they're not going to get so worked up about it.
Right.
I don't think that means that men don't care and men have got no interest in this and sort of applauding what's happened in Georgia. I don't, but I think you're right. I think more should be done. It's a bit like the Me Too movement, when the Me Too thing kind of happened. The argument was by a lot of people behind that campaign, men have got to step up and go, no, you can't just go, yeah, there's a few men like that in offices, and yeah, we know it happened. No, you've got to start pulling people up. And I think they've done that. And I think with certain well-known celebrities that have been caught out doing misdemeanors, I think men as well have gone, you can't say that. No, you can't do that. Much more than before. So I think it's about raising awareness, you know? I think that's got to be the starting point.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I get what you're saying. Like, it's not a man's problem, but I think if you strip
Well, it could be if it's your baby.
Yeah, but if you strip it, like you take all the layers off it for a minute, at the end of the day, the way I look at it, it's a human right issue here. It's not about babies. It's not about women. It's not about abortion. It's about human rights. You notice how I say human now? Like I say it properly, right? Because I used to say human.
Oh, right.
So I'm quite impressed by that. And it is, because at the end of the day, it's government telling you what you can do with your body. So what happens tomorrow, for example, if the government, I don't know, suddenly changes their mind and they decide that the way they're going to approach the problem of killing babies is by making all men have, reversible vasectomies. Would you feel that is
No, the argument is the same.
Of your
the argument
human
is,
rights?
I believe that governments shouldn't get involved in certain topics that don't affect, it's not like it's, okay, governments are there to, raise taxes and put money into certain things and local and, national services and law and order and things like that. This kind of thing, I don't see why a government should get involved in it at all. What's it got to do with them?
But don't you think then it's weird? Because I personally, and I say this obviously as a woman, right? I'm just trying to highlight it because I don't think everybody sees it, because people do get distracted by the killing babies, right? I think it is an attack on women, because you're right. Governments shouldn't get involved in your body. They shouldn't, and not only shouldn't they don't do it. Show me another example.
Okay, I can give you another example, but which the good thing...
For example, I'll give you an example. What about vaccines, right? The vaccine is another massive argument, right?
Yes.
There are a lot of people, and this is not, by the way, we're not going to get into the debate of vaccinations, right? We're not going to get into the debate. But my point is this. There are vaccinations. There are a lot of people who don't want to vaccinate, right? To give their children vaccinations, right? And there's an argument that they're putting other people in risk, right? They're risking lives. There have been cases, blah, 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 and all that, right? Why haven't the government made it a law that if you don't vaccinate, you go into prison?
because with that argument, they've gone, well, it's up to the individual person.
Exactly. So my point is that not only do they shouldn't, they also don't, ever. However, when it came to this, they decided that they can and they should. This is why my argument is that it is 100% an attack on women rather than anything else. And the problem that we have is that we keep focusing on the pro-life, pro-choice argument that just distracts us from what this issue really is.
Do you think that's because they are some extremely powerful lobbying groups in America? And we all know how people get elected, and I don't know much about the American political system, but, you need backers financially, you need groups of people to vote for you, and therefore you'll get pressure groups going, you want this group of votes from this huge pro-life thing, or what's another thing, the pro-gun lobby. You want to be in power and all that. You've got to vote for some. I think that's what happens a lot. They
I don't know.
Huge amounts of power, whereas I think a decent politician should go, I take your point, this has got nothing to do with you or me or whatever. You're right, that should be the starting point.
Yeah.
This is up to an individual's choice, what they want to do, whether they want to keep or get rid of or whatever the circumstances, and that's it. I'm sorry, I'd love your votes, but I can't do anything on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Clearly, that doesn't happen.
The answer is I don't know because again, I don't, and I'm not American. You're an American. We don't live in America, and I'm not that familiar with all the the little details of all that. But I do think. Going back to the beginning of the conversation, I think I don't know. I think religion plays a big role in this.
Yes, of course.
I think that plays a massive role in
absolutely.
it. And yeah, you're right. There's probably pressure that's also political,
Sure.
whatever. But all of that doesn't really, I'm sorry, I don't give a fuck about any of that. Like, I don't. I think my issue now at the moment is this, right? I came out and I said, this is not about me being pro-choice or pro-abortions, because at the end of the day, what I would do in my personal life, had I ever been in that situation, right? I don't know what it would be. And it could very possibly be that I myself wouldn't choose to have an abortion, for myself.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, which is why I say that I do think that you can be both. You can be pro-life and pro-choice literally at the same time. My argument is that, and there is an issue, there's two issues. There's an issue that women are divided because even within women, there's a lot of fighting, there's two groups that have just been divided by two, and there's a lot of fighting. And then there's men on the other side who haven't been, I think, vocal and supportive enough to actually come on board with people who, understand that this is a human right issue and not really a baby issue, and we need to sort of support. And I think there's just not enough people vocalizing that and saying that. And now I want to go back to another thing that you brought up, which is people talking about it out there. I have noticed, and there have been a lot of celebrities and big names and big people with a lot of big platforms who have been vocal and who have in the past, week or so, using their platforms and using, to try and promote, for example, to talk about these things.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are avoiding it.
Because they don't want to lose their followers.
Yeah. A lot of people are avoiding it.
Yeah, well, you've been talking about it and you've lost followers.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, there you are. Well, that's they've taken their own stance, but they don't want to put their head above the pulpit and sort of stand up for it because they know that it's going to divide their fans or whoever these people are, their followers.
And I think, again, the reason why people are so afraid, I'm sorry, I'm going to keep going back to it because I actually think that this is what happens, It's like literally what happens is because, again, I've seen people online, like different posts that were, sort of trying to promote women's rights, right? But not actually getting involved themselves. So not doing their own sort of post or their own thing. But again, the reason is because you are automatically, if you say, I am pro human rights, i.e., you're automatically categorized in that, well, you're anti-life and you are pro-abortions, and there is no middle ground. You know what I mean?
I agree with your point to saying I defend the rights of people, women, to make their own choice.
Yeah.
That's it. You can actually say, as you said before, I don't agree with abortions. I don't personally, I've never
It's not that I don't agree. I don't
probably never had
think,
abortion
but
myself,
again,
but
I don't know, 'cause-
I'll defend your
Yeah.
right to make a choice.
Yeah, again,
which you get on many, many things. With freedom of speech, I might not like what you're saying about this subject, but I will defend your right to be allowed to say
Completely.
it. What's the difference?
And I honestly think, again, going back to the government, like getting involved in what you would do with your body, like because a lot of people were talking about, well, it's just like, some of the comments, though, is like, well, how do we prevent all these unwanted pregnancies? Some people were saying, well, just don't have sex, like these like things that are just like not even, remotely possible, or they're not really useful. But I do think, yes, if the tables were turned and this was, for example, let's force everybody to have vasectomies, for example, right? I do believe that women would vocalize more for men, like for the sake of men to say that it's wrong. I actually do think that. Do you think that? I do. I really do. I have like this. I know I would. I really do. I know what you're saying. You choose causes that are close to your heart.
People
of course,
just
you
generally
choose.
do.
And by the way, with me personally, it's of course I like to talk a lot about women's issues and women's rights, but I talk a lot about other rights of other, minorities, or whatever you want to call it, because I have an issue with when human rights are being treaded upon.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that everybody needs to start using those terms. And once you start using those terms, it's suddenly, it's suddenly a completely different debate. So yeah, sorry. I feel like I've just talked at you for like literally 30 minutes.
I'm used to it. I get it every day. Look, it's such an emotive subject, and I know we're concentrating on this one particular newsworthy thing in Georgia, but this debate happens in every country.
Yeah.
It goes around in cycles with pro and anti, and it will probably never go away. It will never go away.
The problem now is, again, not being very aware of American politics, but I know that there's a few other states who have similar bills, sat on their table and waiting to be approved, So this is now something that's happening in more than just one place. And also, I have to say, there are a lot of people saying, well, it doesn't really affect me. My country is fine. Again, it's an argument that I can't relate to at all, because I think that, again, it concerns all of us. I feel like, okay, so, I'm a privileged woman who can
but today America
get healthcare, whatever. Exactly. But it's not even that. It's not because I'm scared that one day it'll be the same in the UK. That's not why. I don't believe this should be happening anywhere.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So I urge people. I'm sorry that we're using this podcast that's normally a bit lighter and funny to do this, but I think it's a very important issue, and I urge people to get more involved.
Get an abortion?
No. Use your voice if you can, right?
No. Well done.
Get involved. Thank you.
Is that it?
Yeah.
That was well done. You did extremely well there.
Thank you.
If there's anyone still
You know, I'm
listening, we'll be
releasing
back.
a video on Thursday about abortions, right, on my page.
I know.
I'm getting ready to, let's place bets. I'm getting ready to lose about 10,000 followers.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah, 10 or 20, I think it really goes places, Yes, so if you are still listening, thank you for listening. I really appreciate that.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
All right.